Welcome to NCBOLD. This is the content creator session. My name is Chris Zirkle. We do have slides that you'll want to access in order to get the resources, the content materials we have for you. So you want to use the bit.ly or the QR code. The bit.ly is case sensitive. If you want to use a larger screen on a computer or laptop, I recommend using the bit.ly. It is capitalized NCBOLD, and content creators is not capitalized. So watch that case sensitive. Go ahead and pull that up. I'm Chris Zirkle, and this QR code just links to my digital business card. If you want to text me, call me, email me, that's fine. That's my Wake County phone. I know you weren't in the session able to ask questions and enter into discussions with us, so feel free to shoot me a message via my contacts there. And I've been teaching in Wake County, working there for about 20 years, did about 15 years in the classroom with middle school language arts, and then moved into the type of position I have now, which is basically a digital learning coordinator, similar to an ITF. We train and support staff, students on all things educational technology. And this session is content creators. It's for educators. If you yourself as an educator are wanting to create content, maybe you want to get started and are looking for just something to help you get started, or you're wanting your students to create content, this session will be applicable to both. Everything that we discuss will be able to be used by either teachers or students under your guidance, of course. So the main purpose of this session is to encourage educators and students to share their content with others. I have a few success stories that I share with others, how I've been able to encourage others in the past to get into content creation, and now I see where they are now, and it just makes me very happy. And that's what I want to do, is help others get started and help them find the format, meaning the type of content you would create, and define the platforms that you'd want to use to be able to connect to your target audience. We do have some learning objectives. You can peruse these in your own time. Feel free to pause the video and look over these objectives. We also have our ISTE standards stated here, where we tie into that. So make sure you want to take a look at that as well. Just pause and resume to peruse that information. But let's go ahead and get into our first segment, the introduction, onboarding. The way this is really going to work is I'll spend about 20 minutes doing the introduction on content creation, and then you'll have about 50 minutes to be doing some work on your own. 20 of that will be selecting a content type and exploring what I have for you, the resources and so forth. Then we'll move on to actually working on the 5 steps. Start having you develop your game plan, picking your persona, your content type, your platforms, working on that. And then at the end, we're going to share out with everyone maybe something that you created, and maybe it could be something you created in the past, or just what you want to share from today, what you've ideas you have or plans you have, just so we can all post content today in a collaborative space, this Padlet. So you just click on that link, it'll take you to the Padlet, and you'll be able to post from there. So what is content creation? Content creation is the process of creating and sharing content. That could be things like text, images, videos, podcasts, and it's for a specific audience. And it can be done for a variety of purposes: inform, entertain, and persuade. Some people do want to monetize, which in education with students and so forth, we wouldn't necessarily be looking at monetization. But if it's something that you are doing on your own, or you're talking to students about careers and you want to bring in the conversation about monetization, that would be an aspect to point out. There's all kinds of creators from all walks of life that can be creating content, and they have a variety of platforms they use. And getting started really just is you kind of picking a topic that you're kind of passionate about. You may not be the subject matter expert, but you have some sort of passion for it, and that may be the place to look. And then you want to figure out the kind of content you want, the platforms you want to be on, and then start connecting to your audience. So that's kind of what we're going to do in this session, is take you through that process. There are several benefits of creating content. I've placed these here if you're looking for buy-in or from admin to do some work with your students in this regard, or you're just interested in how it maybe ties in to critical thinking, communication skills, 21st century skills, things like that. I've posted that there for you. And then these are the 6 content types that we'll be looking at. There's obviously more, but these are the 6 that I work in quite frequently. And I want to basically give you examples from my experience, from what I post, the content I create, to help you start to get ideas for the work you may do. And I want to share with you the process, the ways I organize and plan my content, so that way you can get some ideas on how you would develop your own system, right? So there's a process that I go through that we're going to have you work through today, and that is first choosing your persona that represents your target audience. And there's, in the work when we get to during this section, there's plenty of resources that will explain a little bit more and talk to you more about what a persona is. I'll demonstrate a couple in a moment if you're not quite familiar with that. And then you're going to choose a type of content to create, select the platform to deliver it. You'll then deliver it to your audience, and then you want to interact and help nurture and grow your audience. So what I thought I would do is just share my personal experiences, not to promote myself. I'm not trying to promote myself, but so that you can see where I've gotten some of my experience from that I'm sharing with you, and to try to start to see what we mean by different personas and different platforms and ways to deliver. So for example, on the top left, when I talk about personas, meaning that I am, first of all, a father and husband, family, Chris Zirkle, right? On a personal level, outside of everything, I really don't post to social media. I don't use Twitter or a lot of platforms. I do have a Facebook account to keep up with people, friends and family, but I rarely post. Inside of work, then I post, but because that's kind of what I need to do, and I have purposes and reasons behind that. But on a personal level, I don't really do much of this. So on the top left, that's Mr. Zirkle, and I have a website, blog, podcasts, videos, things like that. In the very top middle, I work for Wake County, so I have a different persona for that. Chris Zirkle DLC there, and I'm very formal. On the kind of getting near the bottom, you can see I'm not going to go through every one of these. Some of these are linked, but I just want to give you a quick picture. I do have my own personal podcast as well as a district podcast. I do work for the Williford Brothers. I do all their work. We'll go over that in just a minute. I volunteer for a few churches. I have my own business that I'm promoting. And, of course, within the work I do for others, I'm on a variety of platforms. And so this is kind of just like a snapshot of these personas. Let me take you through a couple. So as far as Chris Zirkle is a digital learning coordinator, I'm just only talking about academic content related to our school district. We use a Google site. We don't use anything else but a Google site, and we don't use any social media to promote. We post vlogs, podcasts, videos, blog posts, and we once a month are included in an email that goes out to all staff in our district with our latest content and links to that. So that's kind of how we reach our audience, is through a district email that has a link to it. And of course, we have people that then know about us and start to follow and things like that. So that's as far as my district level work. Then this is our district level podcast. So I co-host this with Katie Haywood, and we are up to our 44th episode. We've been doing it for about 2.5 years now, and we've gone through several iterations of our format. We have really had a strong audience for a while, and then we had kind of some things happen, COVID and all kinds of stuff, kind of changed some things, so we're kind of getting our momentum back. And then as far as just as a teacher, as just being an educator, then I have my Twitter account, Chris Zirkle DLC. I don't use Twitter in my personal life, just in my work, and I only post about work, and I don't even post very often. But I do have that account just because that's how a lot of other educators are connecting and communicating. So again, depending on your audience is how you determine the platforms you're going to be on. And then I have an EduBlog, a website where I post all sorts of different content that I'm working on, like as far as Canvas and other, digital citizenship and videography and podcasting and applications. And this is where I share that type of content that I make, whether it be in a blog post format, a vlog, which is kind of a little bit different than a film, not to dissect and get into semantics and so forth, but I have different formats of the videos I produce. And then looking at the podcast that I do on my own, Ed Tech Talk, which I talk about educational technologies, and that has it's a lot to maintain all these. That's why you need a system to help you stay scheduled and consistent with your audience, which we'll talk about. And then outside of education, I am employed by the Williford Brothers. I do all their work. I do all their photography, videography, website, podcast, social media, and our next step is to develop an online course. And I bring this up because I want you to know that if you're communicating with students, that these are skills that they may be able to utilize down the road to actually generate an income. So learning how to create these different types of content, learning how to manage and utilize social media to reach your target audience, all these skills are things that students can be aware of that might be potential career paths for them. So just a quick look at the Williford Brothers. Now, this particular persona, they are just looking at other owners and others that want to become owners, right? If we go to their actual business, the target audience here is different. It's a different persona. This is just for customers that come to the wash house, followers of that. So I take the photos or videos of the laundromats, post those, manage that, and we post twice a week for here. And then lastly, I have, again, I'm not promoting myself, but just an example. If you on your own are trying to monetize or have a side hustle or a side business or whatever it may be, you want to add that to your scheduling, add that to one of your personas. So I have to manage all these things and distinguish, what's education, what's work I do for others, what's work I do for myself. I do manage 4 different YouTube channels. You're going to probably start off with one, but realize that if you are going to do something on your own, you want to have your own separate channel versus what you do with your students versus maybe what you do with others. And then this is a look at Trello as on the top. So it just helps me get a big picture to try to compartmentalize Mr. Zirkle's work is, my Twitter account, my EdTech podcast, my blog that I maintain. Then we look over at Wake County Schools. Every month I have a Canvas chat that is due, a podcast that is due, and a digital spotlight. That's the content that I have to create. One is on the second Tuesday of the month, one is on the 3rd, and one is on the 4th. And so I have that scheduled out, and that's what I'm constantly looking for is new content to be able to be posted once a month in those different categories. The Williford Brothers, there's a lot of work there. Again, that's the one I do get compensated for. Again, handling their social media, posting for the Williford Brothers, and then posting for the Wash House, 2 different separate personas, and keeping up with the podcast as far as everything from recording, editing, producing it, getting it distributed, and then of course their blog, which is where we run and distribute to their audience through their blog as well as through social media. So you have to have these understanding of the content you're creating, understanding of your audience, the platforms that they're on, and deliver through that and be consistent. So to build an audience, you need to be consistent. That's my assumption, is that we are trying to build an audience. We're not looking to create one podcast or one blog post and put it out there and maybe someone reads it. No, we're going to be kind of perpetually, indefinitely creating content, growing that audience, and trying to build it from there. And then lastly, Zirkle Media, which is, some work I do for myself. On the bottom is the spreadsheet I use. So then I have my personas on the left, and each persona has a different content type. So Mr. Zirkle does blogs, vlogs, video, and podcasts, versus Ed Tech Talk is just a podcast, versus the DLC blend. We know it says blogs, but we do blogs, videos, and podcasts. And then if you look at the platform column, every type of content maybe goes to different platforms. So, for example, I use EduBlogs, Twitter, and YouTube, versus when we're working with another persona, we may be on different platforms. And then you can see to the right, I have the days of the week, and those are noted of which persona am I using, when am I posting, what day of the week. And for all of my personas or the content that I post, I generally try to post before 6 a.m. or at 6 a.m. in the morning, somewhere around there, just so it's fresh in the morning. There, it keeps me accountable. I usually get up pretty early anyway. So that's kind of a look at how I manage all the content I'm creating, how I distinguish my different personas, my different audiences, my different platforms. And, at first you're going to start off really small, but if you start growing and getting into this, you may need a system to keep you organized. So that kind of brings us to exploration. I've talked about myself a little bit, and in this exploration phase, I'm going to be pausing here in a few minutes, but let's go ahead and look at these different types of content that you're going to explore. If you were in a session live after I spoke during the introduction, there would have been some Q&A. There would have been some talking. We obviously would open up with sharing with each other while we're there, what are our goals, things like that, getting to know each other for a few minutes. So you're just getting this recording where I'm just kind of going through the content kind of quickly, and you're missing out on some of the interactions we had in person. That's why I did offer to you my phone number to text or to email me, that type of thing, as far as my Wake County work number. And then we're going to spend some time in this exploration after we did do some questions and comments. And then we would be getting into this here. This works kind of like a choose your own adventure. So let's say, for example, if I go to videography, that's going to take me to videography. And for each one of these types of content, you have these same categories. You have what is it, the benefits, steps, and how-tos, tips, equipment, and resources. If you click on the home button, it brings you back here. Let's say if you chose a different one like podcasting, and you went into one of the other categories like benefits. If you hit this home button, it just brings you back to the type of content you chose. If you hit home again, then it brings you back to here. So what you want to do is within 20 minutes, if you can cover podcasting, videography, photography, blogging, or publishing, pick one of those, and social media. So in other words, social media plus one of the others is what you want to eventually cover. If you can't cover it all in 20 minutes, don't worry about it. That's just a number there. You do have the ability to pause, so you can take longer if you wanted, but 20 is kind of what we had anticipated. So go ahead and pause now. Pick one of these, explore it, make sure you get to the resources, and then resume. Okay, so if you have paused, you did your exploring, you're resuming the video now. Now we want to complete this process. If you were to escape the slide deck and presentation mode, you can go to slide 68 is where I'm at. And this is going to be 20 minutes of work time. And what you're going to do is start to go through and look at the content creation process. If you click on this link above, see how content creation is underlined? That's actually a link to the guide. So you have the steps here, the 5, but this breaks it down and gets into each one. So this is what you'd want to actually use to go through those 5 steps. So take within 20 minutes, try to go through here. But if you get onto the first one and you're just looking at number 1, like choosing your persona, and all you do is get as far as number 1 is working on your persona, and then 20 minutes is up, it's not a problem. You use this time however you need to use it. Go to where you need to get the information, get what you need to. Our goal is to generate ideas, is to start the ball rolling for you creating content, and getting your persona or personas nailed down first is something you have to do, and then select your content type, which after you've researched it, you may have a general idea. Back here on our slide deck, again, go through these. This here, number 4, is a hyperlink as well. Deliver your content to your target audience. And that'll actually take you to the spreadsheet. It's viewable to you. You can see here are all the personas that I'm working with. These all link to each one if you want to take a look. For example, if you wanted to look at some of the work I was doing with the DLC blend or with my blog or some of the other personas, feel free to check those out. And then, of course, here I have listed my social media accounts. Just disregard that, and I'm not going to show my username and passwords, obviously. But if you go through the tabs at the bottom, then these are the schedules for each one. So I'm still working on this. So, for example, here are some blogs that I've started to enter in that I have, and some work I'm doing for the Willifer Brothers, and my YouTube channels, what the videos are posted there, all kinds of stuff. So feel free to check this out. And then for you to get an idea, because when you go through step 4, when you're delivering it to your audience, you need to have that schedule, you need to have consistency, and you may need to have some tool to manage that. I just happen to use a spreadsheet. After you go through the 5 steps, then it's going to be posting time. You can click on any of these. They're all linked here to the Padlet, and just click on this and post on the Padlet. Whether you created some sort of content, have in the past, anything you want to share, it's just the act of you posting something is what we kind of want you to share as kind of your exit ticket, so to say. If you want to share about what you got out of the session or the ideas you have or the direction you're going, anything, that's fine. Make sure you do spend some time with the feedback form. I really appreciate it. And again, reach out to me if you have any questions or comments. Thank you and enjoy the session.